ain't got nothing for a punk-ass bitch like you. Get on out of here.
TGR.
Hey guys, welcome to today's very special review of a very special title. It's your boy, Onyx, and on the other end of this lovely connection we call the internet is...
It's Rudy! What is up, man?
Dude, a lot is up. A lot. I'm sure you already know what we're discussing. If the title, thumbnail, and intro weren't enough evidence...
But didn't give it away.
If that didn't give it away, yes, we are going to be discussing the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Very excited to be here because there is a lot to discuss. First, before we get into the nitty-gritty, a few things. Number one, the video will be divided into 3 segments. We'll be discussing gameplay, we'll be having a technical discussion, which includes graphics and audio, and then finally we'll get into the story. Now, for Final Fantasy VII Remake, we highly suggest, if you've never played the original, play the original, and then play the remake. And then listen to our story portion, because there is a lot to discuss. However, if you really don't care, then by all means, stick around and listen, because, I mean, it's going to be fun. That much I can say.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Then the other thing, we at TGR had a review scale before, which consisted of a point system. It involved a lot of math, and it worked. It was pretty good, pretty accurate. It usually, landed with what our personal thoughts and feelings were. But we are a new TGR, and we have a new review scale, and I'm just going to briefly touch on it. The review scale will be divided into 5 segments, 5 tiers, if you will. We have the top of the line, Platinum. It's a rare title that comes once in a while. A platinum star of approval or stamp or whatever you want to call it is given to games that are pretty much, if not close to perfect. Then under that you have gold. It's top of the line. It's got great value, but it isn't the greatest. So a gold stamped game is a damn good game. Near perfect, but still has a lot to go to be a platinum title. Under that we have silver, which is a precious... it's a precious title, a precious game that isn't exactly or isn't as high of a value, as valuable as other, but it's still a good element, right? It's pretty good. Anybody can go to the store and buy silver. That's kind of how I see it. Bronze, it's functional. It's a metal that just kind of works, and that will also go with the game. It's a functional title that is unacceptable. Or wait, not acceptable. Unexceptional. Sorry. And then finally, the stone rank. It's a game. That's it. A stone is a rock. So I mean, it's barely a game. If you get a stone rank, the TGR stone stamp, then you done goofed up, man. But anyway, that's just the review scale. We will put either a picture or a description in the description of the review scale, just so you can kind of have that handy when we're discussing the game itself. All right, but Rudy.
What's up?
How are you feeling? How are you feeling about Final Fantasy before we get into it?
It's a good game. It actually, before we get into it, I am actually, I'm actually replaying, because I played it forever ago, but replaying the original one on my PlayStation Vita, which is still functional, because this game made me want to go back and experience the original one once again. I've only played probably 2.5, 3 hours, and I'm already, I want to say at like the halfway mark of where the remake happened. But no, I'm excited, man. This game, it made me feel things. Let's just put it like that, without spoiling anything. It made me feel things. So,
right. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that gives us a little bit of an idea of your history with Final Fantasy VII. You played it a while ago, and you didn't really finish it, and you kind of forgot about it. And 7 Remake came out, you played through that, and now you want to play the original.
Oh, hell yeah.
So that's good. That's good to know. As for me, I played the original a while ago. Then, of course, I watched Advent Children. I never played Dirge of Cerberus or Crisis Core, but I am very familiar with the stories, just because I do like the compilation of Final Fantasy VII. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with this game, and again, we will get to that. So
oh yeah,
let's get started with gameplay. Rudy, tell me, how do you feel about the combat?
The combat in and of itself, like when you get into a fight with an enemy, it feels good, man. And it's funny because like when we first started playing, I remember thinking, man, this feels a lot like Kingdom Hearts, like a lot.
Absolutely.
And it as you progress through the game, that difficulty ramps up at an even pace, but it's balanced. It's a nice balance between that action element as well as kind of like that traditional tactical RPG. Like the whole ability to freeze time, so to speak, or slow down time and kind of look at what's going on and be like, okay, I need this character to do this. I need this character to go ahead and heal, or whatever it may be. I don't know. It was a beautiful balance. What did you think about it?
I mean, I absolutely agree with you. And honestly, because of the way the AI works, talking about your point with the slowing down of the battle, you have to tell your teammates what to do, because if you don't, they're just they're kind of dumb, right? So let's kind of back it up a little bit before we get into that. Yeah, I do agree. The combat is very Kingdom Heartsy at first. It does get a lot more tactical as you gain more abilities, gain more materia, things like that, and the game opens up dramatically. I would say after like the halfway point,
right?
Because you have so many options, so many ways to tackle the enemies. Now, of course, there are no random encounters. This is all enemies that are all placed on the world. So when you're going around, you see them far away, and you can just walk up to them and get into the fight. But in terms of the way the combat is set up, I loved it. Like, you have your melee brawlers, which is Cloud, Tifa, and certain weapons of Barret, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But Cloud and Barret are primarily your melee-focused fighters, and they are hella fun. Cloud has, of course, the Operator mode and Punisher mode, which Operator is kind of fast. You get some fast combos going. Punisher, you get an automatic counter if you guard, and then, of course, you have hard-hitting moves. And then you have Tifa, which is a really quick, she's a fist fighter, right? She fights with her fist. So she's, you go in there, you do a bunch of little punches, and then you start building up that ability gauge. Because in the game, it's kind of a mix, like you said, it's the traditional turn-based RPG mechanics in a way. It's not turn-based, but it has those mechanics with the abilities and the ATB gauge, which was the active time battle system of the old Final Fantasy. So I don't know who came up with that idea, but I love it because they blended it really, really well.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. The ATB, it's just having that ATB there, and that being essentially what gives you the ability to use your abilities or use magic. It just, I don't know, it was so well done and balanced, and I love the fact that Tifa felt like a Tekken fighter to me.
Yes, she feels like almost so like Dante, almost like a character action game,
right?
Character,
Yeah, man, it felt awesome. Like being able to just kind of like in the middle of battle, just like switch over and just kind of have like that fast. Like she doesn't hit hard, but she hits fast, and you're just able to like move around. Like, excuse me, it felt really, really good. On top of all of that, dude, the stagger system. How did you feel about the stagger system? At first,
when we first see that and we first hear about it, I'm just thinking, okay, this is like 13 now. I really like 13's combat. I'm one of the few people, I'm one of the 10 people that really liked Final Fantasy 13, despite of its linearity. And the combat was one of the highlights. So when I saw the stagger, I was like, okay, I guess it's going to be very like Final Fantasy 13.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of still is. It really does have that feeling of 13.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that you don't really throw them up in the air. Like, they stagger and they kind of just, stay on the ground or wherever they're at. But I love that, like, when you stagger them, you get all this, like, feedback that says, yo, go in, do damage, mess up this guy right now. And it feels good. And it's crazy how, like, certain enemies, like, their stagger gauge goes down super slow, or some go, like, almost immediately fast. So you have to, like, as soon as you stagger them, dude, you gotta react. You gotta, like, do your special move now, or like, whatever you gotta do it fast, because you have a very small window. So, really, man, it's a surprisingly tactical game. Like you said, I thought it was going to be more Kingdom Hearts, which I'm sorry to say this, guys. Kingdom Hearts on normal is pretty button mash. You don't have to put a lot of thought into it. At least not as deep a thought as you would like the critical gameplay, right? Right. You're playing on critical mode. This game, though, on normal, was pretty challenging. And a lot of it has to do with the tactical, like, variety that it brings in.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I agree with you. The stagger system, I thought the same thing. I was like, huh, okay, Final Fantasy 13, let's go. But I felt like, Final Fantasy 13, they took that element, and what happened with Final Fantasy 15, it kind of became a natural evolution on things and just blended everything together. I found myself continuously, with every battle that was like either a boss fight or like a large battle or large scale battle, I would find myself going to assess whatever enemy I was fighting, finding out what their weak points were, if there were any, or any sort of tactical data that was in that assessment, and using that to stagger them as fast as possible, just so that I can gain an edge in battle. And it just, when that finally like clicked, like, I remember on stream when you were like, dude, bravery is great, but it's more for damage.
Company. How marvelous!
Like, focus thrust is like your babe. You want to do stagger.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does a lot.
I remember you saying that, and like, it didn't click. And the moment that it clicked, and I was like, oh, like, this is how you stagger. This is how you do things. It became so much more apparent at like the I guess versatility that it could have. That I don't know, man. I loved it. I
get it. I get exactly where you're coming from, because like, you start just playing and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna do braver on this guy, or I'm gonna do this ability on this other guy, and then like, when I got Focus Strike on Cloud, I'm sorry, that's Tifa's. When I got Focus, is it Slash or Focus Thrust? I forget what Cloud's name is. My apologies.
I think it's Focus Thrust, but I'm sure you can put it in the text or in.
I definitely will. I definitely will. But when I got that ability, I read it like, oh, it affects the stagger gauge.
Right.
And then, you kind of start thinking, okay, if I use this in conjunction with whatever its elemental weakness is, if it has an elemental weakness, you just kind of go in, man. You start combining all these different abilities, and you see that gauge go up. And coincidentally, we're talking about the gauge. We didn't even talk about Barret and Aerith, like their combat styles, right? Like, Barret is, he's your gunner, so he shoots from a distance typically.
Right. He's slow.
He is very slow. Like, his ATB gauge, I think, fills up the slowest.
Yep.
And then a lot of his weapons tend to give him a lot of HP, a lot of defense. So he's a weird character to play as, because when you're from afar, you do damage, but it's not as much as the other characters unless you have the right abilities going on. It's very crazy. I don't know. And then Aerith, of course, she is like a mage. She kind of hits enemies from afar by using certain magic. Like, so like her regular attack is just like a few little magic, I don't even know what to call them, orbs maybe, that come out of her like staff. Maybe? Yeah,
sure. Let's call it that, because that's what it seems like.
Right. So little orbs that come out of her staff.
Right.
And she has a bunch of different really cool abilities. I actually, like, besides Tifa, I really liked Aerith's abilities. Like,
really?
Because you get like, okay, so we'll back up a little bit. Every weapon that you get has an ability that you learn.
Right.
Once you become proficient with that ability to 100%, that ability remains yours to use despite of the weapon. So you can switch back to like the original starter weapon if you prefer the stats for that and the materia slots, because those also vary. So you can keep that starter weapon and just keep those abilities as long as you are proficient with them and learn them. And with Aerith, she has some really cool stuff. for example, the Arcane Ward, which I think is like the second weapon ability. You put that thing on the ground, and if you're in the circle and you do a spell, you automatically do 2 spells.
Yep.
That's cool as shit. Or like the Ray of Judgment, which was that cool little beam.
Dude,
that does so much stagger damage.
I love Ray of Judgment. So like it just does a lot of damage. I love it. I spam that a lot.
Hell yeah, dude. So like I don't know, I really enjoyed playing Esther. It was a really unique like play style that you don't really see very often in games like this.
Yeah. I'm right there with you, man. Like, I will say that, like, Barrett's, I think it's called Maximum Fury, where he just kind of, like, goes all out. It's like, brrr, like, dude, I love that. I use that so much. And, like, there's specific fights later on in the game that I was just all like, like, this is the perfect time for it. It makes sense to go.
Maximum Fury, to
do Maximum Fury. It's there. I do love the how abilities stay with the character. It reminded me a lot of Final Fantasy IX and how you had your abilities that were attached to your weapons. Once you learn them, once you get enough AP, then you go ahead and move forward on stuff. I don't know. It seemed like this remake was a culmination of the beauty of a lot of systems across the series overall.
Absolutely.
And it's for the better.
Yeah, and you know, going back to the Final Fantasy XIII comparisons, I feel like this is what Final Fantasy XIII was supposed to be,
right?
Because both are pretty damn linear. Both have a very similar battle system, minus, of course, again, this one being more action-oriented than 13. 13 was still menu-based,
right?
So you didn't have real control of your characters like that. But I feel like this is what 13 was supposed to be. It's just way better paced.
Dude, we even have like a Crystarium. Like
with the weapons.
With the weapons, the way that they level up, like it's literally batches and you get to choose which, you know, like you can skip levels and upgrade different levels if you have the SP was SP, right?
It was SP, yeah.
Yeah, like you can just go ahead and level. Dude, it's just I love the customization that was there, that you can kind of like skip around, pick a weapon that suits your play style. And just move. I love freedom like that. It was just it's well done. Very well
and
done.
even though the game itself is linear, because let's not beat around the bush here. The game is really linear, and that is due to the origins. Midgar was a very linear segment of Final Fantasy VII, so it makes sense. But besides that, I think it did the best that it could in blending both worlds. Maximilian, dude, which I will bring him up a few times here because he has said some damn good points about this game, and he referred to this as Final Fantasy VII Yakuza, because Yakuza has a very similar like pattern. It has a very similar what do you call it, like the pacing and how it's developed, how it's created, like how the story progresses. It's very similar to this. It's chapter based. Once you get to certain chapters, there are points of no return, and when you're in certain areas, it's just a big playground where you do a bunch of different side quests, a bunch of different activities, and then you continue with the chapter or the story when you're ready to go. So it has a lot of Yakuza in it too, which is fantastic for me. I love that series. But I think...
So what you're saying is that for people that are listening, if they haven't played Yakuza, they should go check it out.
Yes, by all means, check it out. Highly suggested. Don't expect Final Fantasy, but maybe you should.
Yeah.
But anyway, that I wanted to be a little segue into still gameplay. I want to talk to you about the pacing. Now, you're just now playing through the original, and you kind of see how much faster the original was getting through Midgar. How do you feel? Like, tell me how you felt while playing the game without knowledge of the original, or with little knowledge of your first playthrough since it's been so long, and how you feel now.
Are you talking about me playing the original or me playing...
So tell me how you felt.
The difference between the two is vast.
Yeah. Tell me first, playing the remake without having that, like, you know, intimate, clear knowledge of how the first one was.
So
and then now.
And that's the thing, like, I bought that version, the original version, on PS3/PS Vita because it was on the PSN store, and I remember playing through it, and I got all the way to some epic moments near the end, but it more or less ended. My playthrough ended right where the remake ends, more or less. And when I was playing the remake on PlayStation 4 on like my PS4 Pro, I was like, man, this is, you know, you could tell that there were certain moments that were extremely expanded, like extremely expanded. And then there were, when we were, we had our chapter 4 stream, you were like, dude, this wasn't even in the original game, like at all. And I was like,
I think the entirety of chapter 4 was literally new.
Exactly. And you're like, yeah, man, like blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, man, I don't remember that at all. And like, I barely remember it. Now that I'm replaying it, I'm just like, holy crap, they added so much. Because like I said,
yeah.
I'm like 2.5, 3 hours in, and I'm already at the halfway mark of where the equivalent was in Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's insane. And I think I put in like 42 hours, something like that.
Oh, nice. I actually got like 38-ish hours.
You know me. I like to take my time and look into every corner. I'm sure if you look at like some of the gameplay vids that I have, it's all looking in random corners. Like when like the game's like, yeah, you have to go right, and I'm like, no, but I want to go left, and I go
left.
and then I go to take the left, and the game's like, no, like you have to go right, and it stops
Yeah.
you.
I will say that happened to me a few times too, because since I knew there were points of no return, I did want to make sure I got everything as much as I could anyway in my first playthrough.
So
I'm with you on that.
I mean, now that I'm playing the original, I can just tell how much they added to it, and I think that's like the biggest thing in my opinion.
Right. So now that you're playing the original, you're seeing how zippy that segment is. Do you feel like the game was padded in a negative way?
It depends on what you're referring to. If it's the story, I would say no, because and I'll save that for a later segment. In regards to non-combat gameplay segments, for example, there's certain moments where you're stuck walking around at an extremely slow pace. There's certain like nitpicky things that I'm kind of like, why did the designers do that? For example, when the initial mission, when you're going to the Mako reactor, or Mako, sorry, the Mako reactor, and like you're about to flip a switch, you have to hold triangle to go ahead and like almost like make sure. And like when we were doing our chapter 4 stream, so I remember somebody in the comments was like, oh yeah, well, that could be because they're trying to hide loading. And I'm like, no, as I play through the game, there's moments where it's literally like me pulling that lever and holding triangle is for like a gate to go up, and everything is loaded within the same scene.
Right.
Like everything's already there.
Like those 5 seconds were actually loading assets. Like they can't be that drastic.
No, no. And like, don't get me wrong, the game is optimized as best as possible, but dude, no. Like that's not it. That's nothing more than a design choice that they made, and I question things like that. And there's very God of War moments is kind of what I want to call it, which is where you're walking slowly at a pace that is unlike any other moments throughout the game, just for cinematic effect. And I get it, but at the same time, I find it restrictive. Does that make sense? No,
100%, because I'm with you, right? I do want to touch on the holding the triangle thing, though, and it will kind of go into story as well as this next point. But so with the whole walking slowly, which happens a few times, one point in particular that was very annoying to me was the first time that you see Sephiroth in Chapter 2. Again, this is kind of talking story, but it's a very early story stuff, so we'll I'm barely gonna touch it, so don't fear for spoilers. But you see Sephiroth, and you kind of see him going around an alleyway, and it takes so long to get to him. I think like a good minute and a half before you actually get to him, with just Cloud slowly walking, holding his head, with fire around you, this vision of fire. And I was so annoyed.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, why is this taking so long? So those kind of things I didn't like. But in defense of the holding triangle button to pull down the lever, I don't know if this was intentional, but do you remember in one of the chapters with Aerith, once you finally find Aerith and you're going through the Collapse Expressway, right? There's this one part that she wants to high-five you, and Cloud, throughout the whole time you're with her, he like doesn't want to high-five her, and then he kind of like says, he's hesitant, but he still doesn't do it, and then finally he gives in. And when you're about to high-five her, you have to hold the triangle button. And you see his arm slowly kind of going up, and then boom, high-fives. And then she like, yeah, you did it. Like, it was like a really endearing moment.
Right.
Now, I don't know if holding the triangle button for the gates and levers was some sort of build-up to kind of make you feel like, oh, this is just Cloud doing things in that way? I don't know. But that is the one time in that entire game that I loved holding triangle down to do an action.
So are you saying that, like, throughout the entire game, anytime that he pulls a lever, it's him having that same level of hesitancy?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it's that. I don't know if it was the designers, like, kind of making a point that,
right,
you know, this is something you're going to be doing, and then kind of hitting you with that left field. Oh, you want to high-five Aerith? Here you go. Hold down a triangle button and see the slow arm raising. Because that was one of my favorite parts of the game.
Me too.
Right? But again, that's story stuff, which we can kind of discuss later. But I wanted to bring it up now because you brought up the triangle thing, which was really annoying for the majority of the game.
Yeah, it was like, why, dude? I want to pull the lever. Let me pull the lever, you know?
Right. And then, you know, so a lot of the additions were welcome. Unlike a lot of other people that I know online, which I believe it was Donkey. Donkey did not like this game overall, and I think some other people didn't, but I really liked Jessie. I thought that thirst bucket that she was, God, I loved her personality. She was super playful, super fun. Like, she was very obviously interested in Cloud.
You don't say.
Yeah. And that whole segment with her parents and her backstory and Biggs and Wedge, I loved it. I loved everything about that chapter. So I welcomed those kind of changes. But a lot of the side missions were pretty crummy.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Pretty crummy. There was a lot, you know, there weren't a surprising amount of fetch quests. I thought we were going to see more fetch quests, but they kind of still fell into that. It was like, hey, you know, like the Angel of the Slums side quests.
Yeah.
Like, oh, go and check out what's happening here. And then you go there and you fight an enemy. And then you may get a drop of an item. And then you bring it back to the quest giver. And it's like, oh, that's the item I needed. Oh, my gosh. Like, they weren't, like, obvious fetch quests, but they kind of were.
Yep. And you know what sucks? When a fetch quest is built into the story.
Remind me, which one was that?
The one at Wall Market.
Oh,
dude, yeah. I was playing through that and I was like, this is literally a fetch quest. It was like 30 minutes of a fetch quest.
Yeah, Wall Market, I enjoyed the area. I enjoyed the stuff you did in there, but that's one of my biggest criticisms with the game as well. Like, a lot of the chapters where you're doing things like that are a little bit mundane,
right?
They tend to drag more than they should have.
Right.
Like, for example, you get through Wall Market, which again did have some downtime, but it had one of the best moments of the game, right?
I agree.
With the whole Honeybee Inn. And then you get into the sewers, and then the sewers were stupidly long, and they didn't really bring much to the story. Right. So there was a little bit of a pacing issue. I feel like the first maybe half of the game was pretty damn good. Maybe the first third, because I think, like, once you get to chapter 5, the slums, and you start doing a lot of those side quests with Aerith, the pacing definitely slowed down after that.
Big time.
Yeah.
I agree. But I don't know, man. Aside from, you know, that, the only other time that like I saw the pacing like stop to a halt. And it was funny because you told me about it, and I was like constantly like keeping an eye out. I was like, when is it gonna happen? I need to keep an eye out. I needed to see what Onyx was talking about. Was the robotic arms portion?
The robot arms. Oh my god.
Yes.
I hated that section so much.
I just passed it in the original, by the way, and there was only one robotic arm, just for reference.
You didn't even do anything. You just
and it didn't do anything.
It, right?
You don't even walk over. You walk like right by it or something. And where I'm at, like, what is it? Cloud just ran into Tifa, cross-dressed.
Oh, okay.
So that's where I'm at. But no, it completely killed everything, in my opinion, for that area.
Yeah.
So
that I love the Collapse Expressway.
The music,
which we'll get to, but yeah, I love the Collapse Expressway as an area. I despised that robotic arm segment. Like, the first time I was like, all right, cool. The second time, okay, yeah, I get it. They introduce you know, an idea, an element of the level, if you will, and then they kind of expand on it with the second time you do it. But the third time, dude, I literally spent over 15 minutes. My big brain was not working. I felt so stupid when I finally realized how to get past that area. But I spent 15 minutes trying to figure it out. I was genuinely frustrated. Like, I hated it so much.
Well, I knew what to do. It was just kind of mundane at that point.
And that happened too. Like there was like in the sewers, there was the whole thing with pulling the lever and getting the pressure right with the gauge. That was kind of annoying and dumb. The pulling the double levers when you were with Barrett and Tifa.
Yeah.
She's like, all right, guys, time it right. Like that was also kind of like, all right, did we really need this right now?
Well, I mean,
Is this adding anything to the game?
They did the same thing in the original, like in the I think Mako 5 or in the Mako 5 reactor. You had to push the button together at the same time, and
that's true. That's true.
It was there.
Which I mean, I get it, and that was like you said, you're right. It was part of the original, so I get it. But I think even when I played the original, I was just like, I mean, I don't know. It wasn't something that really made me be like, wow, what a great mechanic, But then again, the original had a lot of weird little things like that.
Yeah. What did you think of the sorry to like totally different segue.
That was really the end of my thought, dude.
Okay. What did you think of the bike scenes?
I love them.
Holy crap.
I love them a lot. They were very simple. You're literally mashing square and circle and sometimes L1 and triangle.
I don't care. I loved it. It was fun. The music was good. The action was good. The enemies were interesting. Beautiful. It looked beautiful, which we'll talk more about how beautiful the game looks later.
Very soon.
But yeah, no, that was like another segment of gameplay that I really enjoyed. I thought
it's
awesome.
funny because we discussed already, Chapter 4 was pretty much all new. The only bike scene in the original that I remember, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure there was only one bike scene, and that was when you escaped Midgar. And they added a whole second bike scene to this game in Chapter 4. Which makes sense because they threw in a boss in the Midgar escape, so makes sense that you would want to have the basics down before you get to that. But I loved it. I'm with you on that. They looked awesome, and they played really well. It was a very hype moment for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But I will say those were some really long highways. I mean, you're 15 minutes like going down 120 miles an hour. Those are long-ass highways.
Midgar's huge, man.
Yeah, right. But yeah, besides that, though, I think in terms of gameplay, it is flawed. You're right, it's a flawed experience, but it is a damn well good one. The action in the game, in the combat in particular, I would pretty much say it's pretty near close to perfect.
Yeah.
And in terms of pacing and the side missions and the structure of the game, it's flawed. It's got some pacing issues, but I think overall it does make up for it, especially near the end. The last 2 chapters, that pacing, it gets good. It's really, really good.
Really, really good.
But yeah, any final thoughts on the gameplay side?
There are things that I haven't explored in the end game. I don't know if it will I doubt it will drastically change how the gameplay works. Yeah. But it was such a good system. It made me want to play more. This is
absolutely.
This is, without going too deep into it, this is one of the few games that have come out this generation that pulled me in and made me want to continue playing.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And a lot of it has to do with the combat. The combat was really damn good. It felt good the entire time. Except, you know what? I'm glad I just said that now, because there is one thing. When you lose control of your character, when you're put to sleep, or when one of these enemies jump on you, like those little, I forget their names, but the ones that feast. That's one of their actions. And they get on your face and they keep like biting you. Whenever that happens, it sucks.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it sucks so much. There was one part that I literally died because all my characters got put to sleep, and then I kept getting feasted and slept, and feasted and slept, and feasted and slept. I couldn't do anything. I got so upset that I died to literally fodder because of stupid crap like that. So that is one of that is why it's not perfect, because when you lose control of your character, it feels awful.
You sure you couldn't just put on, something that makes you immune to sleep?
You probably could have, but that's also another thing. Thank you, dude. Thank you. That's also another thing. And I was going to say this earlier, but I got excited with the good stuff. When you assess, like you mentioned earlier, and you get that elemental weakness or the skill weakness or whatever it may be, I hate that you can't change it mid-battle. Because what happens if you go into a battle and all of a sudden you don't have Blizzard equipped, or you don't have Steel equipped if it's an enemy that has like a weapon for Aerith, or enemy skill equipped if it's an enemy that can give you a skill.
Right.
that sucked because then it's like either you just play through the battle without the weakness, and it takes way longer, Hell House, or you just miss out on a weapon. Like, I really hope for the sequel they fix that. I really hope that they can either give us a materia that lets us swap materia once mid-battle, or just give us the option to maybe, like, if it's going to be a battle that has, again, like Hell House, which you have to really have all 4 friggin' elements, otherwise you're going to have a hard time, like, that should be an option. It really, really should be.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. At the same time, it's like, did I ever send you my footage of me playing Hell House and fighting Hell House?
I don't think so. I did not see you play Hell House.
Dude, the first time, because I died, the first time that I fought, like, got my ass handed to me. Second time, a walk in the park. Like, you
told me that. Yeah.
You equip on, like, specific things, and you call it a day, and you just go ham sandwich.
It was definitely easier. It wasn't a walk in the park for me for the second one either, but I mean, it's just more. It's significantly easier when you have the right stuff equipped.
Right.
And I don't mind trial and error gameplay, but in a game like this, where it feels like you have so many options, for it to boil down to trial and error, that kind of sucks, because a trial and error isn't based on, oh, you missed out on a gimmicky part of the enemy, or there's a cheat move that you can easily avoid. It wasn't that. It was you literally didn't have the proper materia equipped, and there's nowhere for you to know that beforehand. Like, there's just no way at all. So that's one thing that I would like them to look into, just to help the flow of the game. I think it would make it flow a lot better if they did that.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
Any other final thoughts?
I think that covers everything I wanted to say. We're going on almost 40 minutes, and 30 minutes of those have been talking about the gameplay.
Yeah.
So I think it's safe to say we loved the gameplay, minus a few things that weren't exactly polished. But it's good. It's good. It delivers quite a lot in terms of gameplay. Okay, so let's move on to the technical side. When we discuss the technical aspects of a video game, we pretty much focus on 2 things. It's going to be the audio and the graphics. So this is going to be a very simple section, I think. Let's discuss the audio first. Rudy, tell me, how do you feel?
It's like smooth like butter. It's so good. It's so good, man. I love it. And that's the thing. Like, before we even started talking about anything in when we were PMing each other, like, I was like, this game, I have no nostalgic ties to it whatsoever. Like, I played it forever ago and it was forgettable for me. And as I'm playing this and I'm listening to the music, the music that was played in Distant Worlds, that is automatically recognizable for me. But everything else that's out of that, like, holy crap, man, it is good. Like, so many bangers. Like,
absolutely,
so freaking good. I just, in speaking to music, it was well done. There's no other way to go about it.
Definitely. And for those that don't know, Distant Worlds is a live orchestra rendition of a bunch of different Final Fantasies. It's a series of concerts. And I think the very first Distant Worlds actually opened up with the bombing mission theme from Final Fantasy VII.
Yep.
Now, this was years ago, at least 10 years ago. And that rendition is fantastic. Bombing mission alone is a fantastic song. But the Distant Worlds rendition is really, really good. But yes, in terms of audio, in terms of music, I am with you. There are a few songs that don't feel quite like Final Fantasy VII, even though I loved the music from Collapse Expressway, for example, which I'm going to be putting in the background here for this section. Even though I loved it, it didn't feel like a Final Fantasy VII song originally, because Final Fantasy VII, specifically the Midgar section, had a lot of oppressive music, right? The Shinra theme, the Mako Reactor theme. All those songs are very oppressive and very, very just depressing, really. And Collapse Expressway did not have that feel. It did go well with what was happening, because you're with Aerith, and she's a bouncy person and really fun, really energetic. So it made sense with that, and it did add a lot of ambience to that area. but it didn't feel like a Final Fantasy VII song. It actually felt more like a Final Fantasy XIII song to me, which makes sense that it's the same composer.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense.
No, I can see that. I mean, now that I'm playing the original, like, you are correct. A lot of the music that it was there in the original portions of the, like, that part of the game was just very somber. It was
Right.
very, very depressing, very saddening. But I don't know. I think that they took a little bit of freedom in kind of recomposing a lot of the songs. Like, a lot of it does stay true, but you know, to fit the story that they were telling and
the scale too.
Yeah, like, dude, the Airbuster thing, like,
Yeah. So
like,
one thing they did exceptionally well was the idea of motifs, right? Because you have like 7 different versions of the regular battle theme. You have like 5 versions of the boss battle theme. Again, multiple versions of Tifa's and Ares and Cloud's theme and Barrett's. And that's the idea of a motif, right? You kind of just use the same music to give you different feelings throughout different parts of the game. And damn, they did exceptional. Let the Battle Begins, and what's the name of the boss battle theme?
It was Those Who Fight Further. That's the one that I funny enough, I actually sent you a link to that video to being like, dude, this is like such a good song to motivate you and to like work and blah blah blah. I was like, dude, this is so good. And like I found myself going back to a lot of those songs. Just to listen in the background while I work at my day job. Like,
no, I'm with you, dude. One of my favorites is actually the Turks theme, but the Reno rendition of it. I love that song. Like, that's actually a song that I used for the intro to this video, just because I love it so much. So a lot of the music, I mean, Uematsu came back to recompose a lot of stuff,
right?
Along with Hamauzu, and I'm sorry, I forget the other guy's name. There's a third composer. I'm gonna put his name right now on the screen. And he actually worked on the Ace Combat series. And a lot of people have said that there's a lot of songs that sound like Ace Combat, which is kind of cool. But overall, at first I was hesitant because I didn't like how the Mako Reactor theme sounded in the remake versus the original, which, I mean, you've played it now. I still prefer the original version. I'm not sure about you, but I still prefer it.
I don't know. I kind of like the remake version.
The remake, it's good, like, da, 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 da. But like the synth of the original, like, it's so like, ooh, it's, I don't know. I really like the original.
I mean, you can tell the inspiration. You can tell where it comes from. Like, when I was playing the game, I was like, man, like this is Final Fantasy VII. It like there's it's there. But I don't know. I just it adds so much more. It's kind of like going from like 8-bit to 16-bit, and then you know, taking like the 16-bit and then going back to 8-bit. Like, you're just like, oh man, like you can tell where the source comes from, but there's like extra layers of deliciousness that was added to the music, and that's really what I'm talking about. Like, you can still tell that this came from Final Fantasy VII back in, what was it, 1997 that it came out, man. Like June of 97, and like now you have this, and it's just like, this is what we wanted to do back then, but you know, CDs, they only held so much data.
Look, it's a fantastic soundtrack. Let's just get down to the nitty-gritty. It's a fan-frigging-tastic soundtrack. I listened to it since the game has come out. I've been listening to it daily. Like, literally every day I put a few songs because it's just that damn memorable. So kudos to Uematsu and the team, because they knocked it out of the park. It's a fantastic soundtrack.
What else did you like about the audio design?
I mean, the sound effects were good too.
Yeah.
Like I had mentioned in one of our previous videos on Panzer Dragoon, I mentioned that, of course, 7 had some very specific sound effects that did not make the cut because this is a much more modern rendition. But the sound effects were clear. I mean, you know, I played this with a soundbar that simulates 5.1. You know, nice bass and stuff, subwoofer with good bass. It sounds fantastic. Like, I think the sound design was really, really well done. It sounded like a movie at times, which, I mean, that's kudos to the studio.
Yeah, I played primarily with headphones on. There were little tidbits that I loved. For example, as you're walking, the footsteps that your character makes changes depending on the ground or material that
Texture.
that they're treading on. So like, you know, and I primarily noticed this when you were in, I believe, oh man, as you're coming out of Aerith's house and you were like heading towards oh my god, I totally forgot.
Back to the slums.
Yeah, back to the slums. There was like this tunnel, and as you're walking, it goes from ground to like concrete, I think. But then on top of that, it gets echoey because you're going through a cement tube.
Yeah.
And you just hear that echo, you hear the footsteps, you hear everything that's going on. You can hear where your characters are speaking from. So there's the surround effect on that. And on top of all that, as you're walking around as Cloud, you can very faintly hear the materia that's in his sword. I don't know. I don't know if you noticed that. You can.
I don't think so.
Dude, like very,
like a
very
little clink.
Yeah, very like little like clinks as you're like walking around, and that's, I'm assuming. I mean, I don't know. It might be his armor, but
I mean,
I'm pretty sure it's material because it sounds like glass clinking around.
Okay. Yeah.
So I was like,
it could be.
I was like, holy crap, dude! They thought of so much in regards to audio engineering and audio design, like little things like that. That just I don't know, man. Like, I love it. And then like little moments where you're like in the middle of a fight, and all of a sudden you're like in the middle of slowing down, but somebody's in the middle of saying something, and everything just slows down to meet that frame rate. You know, things like that. Like I don't know. I geek out over stuff like that.
You know what you call that?
What?
Attention to detail. That kind of stuff really immerses the player, and that's what they did. If you get anything from this review and discussion, it's this. This game it's a work of love. There was a lot of attention paid to a lot of things. One thing that I wish they would have paid a little bit more attention to, however, are certain textures. Like a segue, huh? The graphics in this game are good. They are top notch. Like, I would say 70% of the game looks fan-friggin-tastic.
Oh yeah. Right?
But there's that 30%. There's this 30% that looks kind of now like last gen.
Oh yeah.
Like there's certain NPCs that look good, and there's certain NPCs that look like they're straight out of a PS2 game. Maybe a PS3 game.
Yeah, yeah. It would be like PS2. I don't know.
They're from Final Fantasy 13, or Lightning Returns Final Fantasy 13.
Maybe 13 too, but yeah.
Like those NPCs look pretty bad, and it's off-putting when you see Cloud and Tifa looking amazing, and then the NPC looks like crap.
I call that the God of War 3 syndrome, where your main character looks freaking
Kratos looked
amazing, and then everything else was just shit.
I remember that.
Just pure shit.
Now, besides that though, how about them textures in the slums?
if and like we can link back to it, but when I was streaming the chapter 4 section, like the door to Cloud's room, like I saw that and I was like, wait, like let me clean my glasses. Is this real? Like
no, it was bad. I thought it was popping at first. I'm like, okay, this clearly hasn't loaded yet.
Yeah.
And then like 5 minutes later,
it's still the same.
Hasn't loaded. I'm like, yeah, no, this is bad. What happened here?
But you know, and you mentioned poppin', dude. I experienced a ton of poppin' while I was because like. And again, this kind of goes back to, you know, the me not liking the whole slow walking cinematic walking portion. Like I ran through the majority of the game, so as I'm running through, like things were popping up left and right. Characters like NPCs were popping up left and right.
Oh, damn.
And yeah, like some of the footage that I captured, like you can see it. It's just pop, and like I remember. Okay, so you know the entrance to the sewers on the way. I think it's chapter 14. On your way to like, I think that's like one of the points where you know you kind of the story's like, hey, like, are you sure you want to move forward?
Literally do a side quest.
Exactly. So there's like this entrance to the sewers, and right before that entrance, there's this crane, and it's just sitting there. It's on the side of the pathway, and I remember running towards it, and it took like a solid like 10 seconds for the tires to go ahead and actually load up, the textures to load up. Dude, it looked like a PS1 game. It was bad. Like, and guys, I'm running this on a PS4 Pro, so I thought, you know, things were snappy, things were moving fast, but it just shows you that they put a lot of effort into optimizing the characters, the main characters that you saw the majority of the time, the main NPCs that you saw in cinematic cutscenes, as well as playing around in the game. But everything else, like, they knew that they had to go ahead and kind of create a balance on visuals, and this is the best that they could do. That being said, it kind of gets me excited for Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, because this, like what we saw in, not in the cinematic cutscenes, but in the gameplay cutscenes, you know, where they don't render like a cinematic footage, it's actually rendered in engine. That's the stuff that could possibly be what everything is going to look like next gen. So it excites me. It excites me because if this is a taste, like, this is the pinnacle of this generation, man.
I would agree with that. I mean, you know, Last of Us 2 and Ghost of Tsushima isn't out yet.
Yeah.
So those could be very well the pinnacle, but this game looks exceptional. And, you know, for me, certain like the industrial environments look the best. Like the slums, you know, like a lot of the natural stuff, the dirt, a lot of like the grassy areas.
Eric's house, dude.
Yeah, like that area looked good, but then like the flowers were kind of low poly.
Right? That's what I'm saying.
It was really weird. But then like the Shinra building and everything, when you go in there, I don't think one thing looked bad.
Right.
I did not notice one bad texture. Everything looked impeccable
and shiny.
So yeah, right, yeah, very shiny. So I don't know if it was maybe like they focused on the major parts and they were like, oh crap, we gotta like actually expand this game, and the parts that were expanded maybe suffered due to that. Maybe I don't know. Yeah. But overall, though, graphically, I'd say it's a pretty good package.
You know, I mentioned the pinnacle of the PlayStation 4. Do you remember? And I don't know if this was GDC or if Mark Cerny, like, you know, when he was explaining the potential power of the PlayStation 4, do you remember that he showed a very, very simple rendition of a bunch of cubes just all flowing in real time with real physics? Do you remember that presentation?
That sounds really familiar.
Have you noticed the amount of artifacts and sparks and things that happen in the middle of a battle?
Oh, absolutely, man. Those particle effects are all over the place.
This is when Mark Cerny was talking about that initially. I remember like a lot of people were like, "What? That doesn't matter, man. Show me games." And this is exactly what he was talking about. This is the full power of the amount of objects that are being rendered on screen and the amount of things that are happening at the same time on screen. Fighting in this game is beautiful.
It really is.
Like,
it really is. It looks good.
Is there a photo mode in this? I didn't even realize. Like,
I don't think there is. No.
Square Enix, if you're listening to this, put it in a photo mode. Like,
patch it in, baby.
Patch it in, man. Like, dude, it's such a beautiful game. Why not? You know? No,
you're absolutely right, and it's crazy. Like, because of the presentation, because of how good it looks and how good it sounds, and all of that, it's very inviting. Like, every time I played it, I'm like, damn, I cannot believe I'm playing this. Right. This feels good to play. I mean, I'm sure I've had a feeling like that in the last 7 years that this generation has been around.
Yeah.
But damn, does this game sometimes feel next gen when it comes to the presentation?
Dude, the lighting.
Oh yeah,
the lighting is ridiculous. Like in Corneo's mansion, like when you're going up from the dungeon and walking back down, like this to me is the best lighting from a third-party publisher and third-party developer that has come out this gen that doesn't have ray tracing enabled.
Right? Like, that's the power of Unreal Engine 4, man.
It's insane. I loved it.
So
I loved it. And like the shadows that were cast, like going back to Cloud's apartment, like the shadows that were cast in there, like you could see the outline was almost to a T perfect. Like I was just very, very, very impressed visually with how well this game rendered everything.
Yeah. And the weapons too, like obviously when you switch the weapons, those are shown in models during the cutscenes, like during the cinematics, and they look so freaking good. Like they don't stand out. Like I didn't even use the Buster Sword for the final fight in the game.
Neither did I.
I wasn't taken aback. I'm like, this still looks good to me.
Right.
That detail of having the materia in each one of the weapons as well, like physically visible while you're playing the game, like the materia changing colors if you're swapping up the colors, like that. again, that attention to detail really makes the game immersive. So, I don't know. Again, kudos to the team. This was a labor of love, and it shows.
Indeed.
All right, so any tidbits before we move on? Like it's right.
I don't know. Like, I played at 1080 with super sampling enabled. I enjoyed it. It was...
Yeah, I played at 4K in quotation, but it wasn't 4K. I think it was like, barely 1440p, maybe a little bit higher than that.
Yeah?
Yeah, it wasn't hitting 4K for sure.
Well, that's enough to emulate it.
No, but it looked good though. It looked super crisp, crisp image. I loved it.
Oh yeah, but yeah, man, I just if you haven't played this, I'm sure you have if you're at this point because of all the spoilers. But if you haven't played it, check it out, man. It's
a treat.
It's a visual, like it's pretty.
Yeah. Okay, so now we are gonna get to spoiler territory. So this is your final warning. If you have not played the game and if you are interested in the story a lot, like I mentioned earlier, I highly suggest you, 1, play the original, then play the remake, then come back here. If you don't care, then go ahead, but this is your final warning. Okay, spoilers will begin now. Okay, so right off the bat, this is a sequel. What the fuck, Rudy? What the actual fuck is Tetsuya Nomura thinking?
Okay, so here's the thing. Guys, while we were playing this game, the part where Aerith helps Cloud get back to Seventh Heaven,
right?
That part, Cloud has like a flash forward, flash back, whatever you want to call it. He sees Aerith's materia fall to the ground. Yeah. And as he kind of comes out of that flash, you see that there's a tear coming out of one of his left eye or whatever. At that moment, I was like, holy shit, they're Donnie Darkoing it. This is an alternate timeline. That's the initial thought that I had. I was like these what are they called, the whispers,
Yeah, whispers.
Yeah, the whispers, they were going around, and like I remember we reacted to the trailer and we're like, what the hell, what is this? Like, I don't remember
what
that.
the hell do these ghosts mean?
Yeah, like we don't remember that. And then like it doesn't make like too much sense until you meet Red 13. And Red 13,
he explains what they are.
Yeah, he literally explains what they are, and it's just like, oh shit. And then when I saw that, I was like, it makes complete sense. Everything that has been happening is because something is shifting in the timeline. Something is changing to alter the story. So,
dude, there's levels to this. Now I'm quoting Maximilian, dude, because he had a discussion with the Easy Allies where he broke down the levels of death, like Inception levels of crazy shit.
Right.
This goes down, but let's go back a little bit. Right. So, in terms of the story, we know the basics, right? Cloud is an ex-soldier who is now a merc. He's joining up with the eco-terrorist of Avalanche, which is Barrett and Biggs and Wedge and Jesse, and they're gonna, and Tifa, you said? Oh yeah, Tifa, right? Yeah. She's like Avalanche, but not, she was kind of like hesitant to do some of the stuff that they do, whatever. Right. You're right. But he joins with them, and then they're trying to get back to Shinra to protect the planet. So that's the basic gist of it. If you've played Final Fantasy VII, you know where the story is, and I'm sure you already know what's happening because, well, you're here listening to us talk.
Yeah.
But that's the basics of it, right? There's a lot of stuff that happens later on in the game, and I want Rudy to play it because I know he knows the basics of Final Fantasy VII, but there's certain stuff that you don't know that I'm not going to spoil for you here.
Oh.
But the reason why this game is a sequel is because exactly what you're talking about. As you're playing the game, you start getting, like, running into these whispers, right?
Right.
And these whispers always push things in a certain way. And it's always really weird. It's always very aggressive. It's always really annoying. At a point, I was annoyed myself because, one, these guys come up and they're just annoying to fight, but they seem to just be a really overly aggressive, like, entity in this story with no reason, at least, for the majority of the game. And then during chapter, I believe that was 16, maybe 17, Tifa, not Tifa, I'm sorry, Aerith, and the rest of the team, you guys run into Red 13. She touches Red 13 on the head, and then he kind of gets the understanding. Oh, I get it. Cool. Then he explains that the Whispers are arbiters of fate. They are essentially protecting the timeline, right? The events that are supposed to take place are being protected by the arbiters. And these arbiters are essentially part of Gaia, which is the planet. Because they know that these things have to happen in order for the planet to not be destroyed. Because in the original game, Sephiroth, you know, do you know who Sephiroth is? Do you know where he comes from, what he is?
Are you asking me?
Yes, I'm asking you.
Well, isn't he one of the last ancients or something like that? Or am I wrong?
No, that's Aerith.
Okay.
Aerith is the last ancient.
Okay, so why, aside from him being like some famous soldier,
right? He was a really strong soldier back in the day.
That's pretty much all I know.
Okay, damn. Do you care to know about his backstory now, or do you want to play the original?
Yeah, go for it. Like, I mean, dude, okay. You forget. Like, I played. Like, I got off of Midgar in my original playthrough.
Yeah.
Like, I booted it up on my PS3 upstairs, like my fat PS3. It's there. Right. I'm just like, let me go ahead and go back and re-experience everything. That way I can, you know, continue playing the game and so on and so forth. So I've already, you know, well, I don't know if that's part of that area or not, but I don't mind being spoiled.
It is 100% not.
I don't mind being spoiled.
Okay, so I'll give you like a basic idea. I still, whatever. I'll just tell you. So Genova.
Yeah, Genova
was she's kind of essentially an alien. She came from outer space.
Yeah.
Landed on the planet, and that's where they got her.
Right.
Sephiroth is essentially a clone of Genova.
Okay.
We're using Genova cells. And he doesn't know this. That he's very strong, but eventually once he finds out the truth, he loses his mind, goes berserk. That's when he kills everybody in Nibelheim, which is where Cloud was originally, with Zack and Tifa and all this shit. It gets deep, but that's who Sephiroth is. He was essentially a clone of Genova, if I'm remembering correctly. If I'm wrong, commentators, viewers, tell me in the comments. But I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So what's essentially happening here is that, and this is where it gets kind of wild, right? Sephiroth, did you ever watch Advent Children?
Yeah, dude, we watched it like 3 times together.
We did, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you remember in Advent Children, obviously that's a sequel to Final Fantasy VII, and in that game, Kadash, Yazoo, and Laz are also clones of Sephiroth, kind of, sort of. They're part of Genova, and they're talking about the reunion, which they're all going to come together, and Sephiroth came out of that. And then, Cloud beats Sephiroth, and then, he kind of gives you like a cryptic, like, oh, we may see each other again, this might be a never-ending battle, whatever. If you notice in Chapter 2, the first time you see Sephiroth, remember how I complained that, oh, why the fuck does he have his name on there? We're not supposed to know who he is. So all these other characters, when you first meet them, they have question marks over their name because you don't know who they are.
Right.
But Sephiroth didn't have that. The thing is, this Sephiroth that you have met through the entire game is actually a Sephiroth from the Advent Children timeline. He knows he's going to die. So he's coming back somehow to stop that from happening. The Arbiters of Fate are essentially the player base that knows how the game is going to play. The OG fans that know how the story is going to go through. And Sephiroth needs to stop them. So he gets Cloud to follow him to fight, and they end up destroying the Whispers. Right? That's what you saw at the end of the game.
Right.
That's where you get the unknown journey will continue, because now, since the Whispers are no longer there, he can change the timeline to possibly survive.
Right.
So this shit is crazy, because now we're not talking about a remake. Yes, we're probably still going to hit the same beats. We're still going to go to the same areas, but now we're talking about, will Aerith live?
Right.
Will Tifa die instead?
Right.
Will Barrett die? You remember how we saw Barrett and Tifa dying in that vision?
Yep.
Right? When you went to Shinra headquarters.
Yep.
Barret gets stabbed by Sephiroth, but guess who saved them? The Whispers, because Barret was not supposed to die there. But now the Whispers are gone.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody could die.
Yeah.
And not just that, we see Zack at the end of the game. You have no fucking clue who Zack is, do you?
Isn't he the well, okay, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm like pulling this back from like memory, because I originally, I think it was like, oh man, I think it was like 13.2, or like when Lightning Returns came out, like around that time. I got curious and I like looked up all this stuff. I'm pretty sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, Zack was the one that trained Cloud. I think he was second class, then became first class, and then started training Cloud. And Cloud was nothing more than like a bottom tier, like soldier. Not
You're pretty close.
Not soldier, but like a frontline, grunt.
Yeah,
and
he was literally a grunt.
Yeah,
he was like a nobody. You're right that he did become a first class, but I don't think he trained Cloud.
Okay.
He was just buddies with Cloud, like they met on the battlefield and stuff.
Okay.
They also had a close interaction with Sephiroth, and what happened was Cloud ended up like having almost PTSD, and he ended up, when Zack died, there was so much shock, he ended up taking in essentially
his
Zack's memories.
Yeah, his memories, right, and took up the Buster Sword.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's like literally like he died next to it, and like Cloud grabbed it and took Zack's body with him. So it was a very sad ending. And Zack was actually Ares'
first
like,
boyfriend.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So that also made it, even sadder. But seeing him alive in this potential alternate version, because seeing Zack alive means that there's an alternate universe to the one that we're playing through right now, right? So that Zack, I don't know what the point of that was. We don't know yet. He could, for all intents and purposes...
What? You're saying that there is an alternate universe that we're playing right now?
Okay, so
when Aerith went ahead, because Aerith went ahead and kind of like felt that Zack was walking.
She felt something,
right?
She felt something, right?
So you're saying that is an alternate timeline?
That is an alternate timeline.
So that's an additional one to the one that we're playing right now.
That is an additional one. We have Sephiroth coming from the Advent Children timeline, right?
Right.
That's timeline. It's called Timeline A, right? The original one.
Okay.
He's in Timeline B right now.
Okay.
Where Zack already died because Cloud has the Buster Sword.
Right.
So Cloud's already dead in this one. Cloud already took his memories.
Right.
This already happened.
Right.
And then because the Whispers are no longer part of it, that affected the timeline that Zack is there, that we see. He is now alive in his timeline. He's the one that takes Cloud back to Midgar with the Buster Sword. So that's an alternate timeline. That timeline might be one where instead of Cloud doing the bombing mission, it might be Zack.
Jesus Christ, man.
Dude!
This is like Final Fantasy VII Remake 13.2. Like,
dude, Inception, baby.
It's like insane.
This ending made me appreciate it so much more. I was bitching, like, why do we see Sephiroth with the name? Why do we act like he's such a crucial part? Oh, that's right, because this is a Sephiroth that knows we know. This is a Sephiroth that is remaking the timeline. Tetsuya Nomura in interviews said recently that the title, the subtitle remake, the meaning of that word might not mean what we know or what we think. That's because it's not a remake of the original game. It's Sephiroth remaking the timeline. This is some level crazy nonsense, dude. Like, this changes so much. Now, you can even, like, there's so much evidence, dude. Aerith tells you, don't fall in love with me. Why? Yeah. Because she knows she's going to die.
Right.
Like, she doesn't want Cloud to suffer. Now, I'm going to get even deeper. This is like the highest level. Again, quoting Maximilian, dude, on here. This is like level 4 crazy shit. This could or could not be true. The people are speculating. At the end of Final Fantasy VII, now this is spoilers for you, because you don't know the ending of Final Fantasy VII. So do you care?
About Meteor?
Right. Do you know like how exactly that happens?
Not 100%.
Do you care?
No.
Okay. So at the end of Final Fantasy VII, Meteor is coming. You defeat Sephiroth, but Meteor is still coming. Everything looks to be lost. And now we know Aerith died. right?
Right.
And you pretty much put her into the life stream when her body when she dies. So at the very end of the game, you see Holy, the materia of Holy, come out, and it starts like conjuring up this magic from the earth alongside the life stream, which is like the green substance that you see on the earth.
Right.
And it conjures up, and it literally holds Meteor back, and it stops it. And at that very moment, you see a flash. Cloud is looking at this, and he sees a flash of Aerith from the live stream. Black screen, credits roll.
Wow.
That's it. That's how Final Fantasy VII ends. So we know, okay, Aerith died, but because she died, she became one with the live stream, and she was able to conjure up Holy like an ancient would be able to, and she stopped Meteor. So, what people are big braining is that at the beginning of Final Fantasy VII Remake, when you see Aerith in the hallway, or in the alleyway, remember that she's like there, she opens up her eyes, kind of looks around a little bit, looks to the right, feels someone is there, and then goes on. People are saying that literally her soul, her version, her identity from that original 8 timeline has now been moved to that body with all her memories intact, which explains why she knows more than everybody else. She knows to touch certain people like Red 13 to give him the imagery and stuff. She knows, she's aware. So people are speculating that this could be that original Aerith sent by the planet to protect this timeline as well.
That's plausible.
There's some crazy shit, dude. There's some crazy shit. Like, ever since I beat the game, I've been doing nothing but, like, looking up videos and discussions, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Oh my god, Tetsuya Nomura, you wild man. This is insane. This is insane. Actually insane.
That is crazy.
So because of this, because of all that we know that's happening, and again, I'm barely touching it. There's way more to it. If you guys really want, I'll put a description or a link in the description to the discussion. But it's the Easy Allies talking to Maximilian Dude for 2.5 hours. There's a lot to discuss about this, but because of this, honestly, it elevated the story for me substantially. If this had been a true just down 1-to-1 remake where it was following the original story and it was presented in the exact same way that we got up until the end, I would have been a little disappointed. I would have been like, all right, yeah, it was cool. Fun. They're adding, it's a lot more stuff, whatever. It's good. I'm excited for the future of Final Fantasy VII, but it's a game I've already played. I'm glad that it's here. However, with all of these developments and the fact that this indeed is a remake sequel, dude, this is fuck. It has been a long time since I have felt the anticipation of the next title of a game like this. Like, I can't remember. I literally cannot remember the last time I felt like this for a video game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. Like, pretty much when it happened, when the game ended, and Aerith was like, what's there is the freedom, and that's the scary part, is that there's the freedom to pretty much move forward and change anything. I don't remember the exact quote, but the feeling that I got was like, oh shit, this is where essentially Tetsuya Nomura can pretty much do whatever the hell he wants. And like, I do agree with you that the story moving forward will probably hit some of the same notes, will be somewhat similar, but I feel like there might be big plot points that could shift.
They would have to, though, because, like, Biggs, for example, he died in the original one. He's still alive.
Yeah, I remember you messaged me. You were like, Biggs survived? And I was like, oh, you finished.
Yeah. I'm still going through, like, I don't understand what's happening, dude. I don't get this. But Biggs was alive.
Yeah.
Wedge, like, all of them died.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's speculation that Jesse's still alive, too.
Yeah.
And it would make sense because one of the next areas you're going to go to is the Golden Saucer, which was like a carnival-esque area in Final Fantasy VII, bunch of mini-games, etc.
Yeah.
And she's been saying that, she always wanted to be like the main actress or the main like performer at the Golden Saucer.
Right.
So imagine your surprise when you go to the Golden Saucer and
there she is.
Jessie. Would it rob the original scene of where she's dying? Would it rob a little bit of that like that emotional connection to it? I think so.
Yeah.
I might welcome it because I really, really like Jessie.
I liked her character a lot more,
Yeah.
especially in comparison to the original game. Like,
She had like 2 lines in the original game.
like I'm sitting there and like I was playing it and I was like, wow, she was like, that's it. She was just like code decrypted and that's it. It was
super background character.
Oh, yeah.
Not a lot to her at all.
Oh yeah. So
But man, like, and again, I've just barely touched on this, man. There's so much stuff. Like, just another thing that it's really interesting to me. So near the end of the game, where you go to the, I guess the Destiny Crossroads, as a chapter is titled.
yeah.
You start fighting the Arbiters of Fate. You start fighting the Whispers, and you start fighting these 3 versions, right? There was the Whisper that was red, one that was yellow, and I believe the other one was blue. Is that right?
Do you think that was Barrett, Tifa, and Cloud from a different timeline?
See, that's what we originally thought.
Uh-huh.
But people on the internet are amazing. So there's 3 things that you're gonna look at this, right? When you look at the fighter, right, the one that's supposed to be Tifa, they only have 1 glove, like
Right.
1 fighting glove,
Right.
versus both for Tifa.
Uh-huh.
The gunner has 2 separate guns versus 1 machine arm.
Uh-huh.
And the fighter with the sword, it's like a short sword versus like a big ass buster sword.
Right.
So people looked at the moves and the color that they represent, and they realized that Kadaj, Yazoo, and Lost from Advent Children have the same color materia in some scenes, and they actually represent the moves because, you know, the character that has 2 guns versus 1, and like their fighting moves, their styles, what they do, they look exactly like the movie. So people are like, oh, this is actually Kadaj, Yazoo, and Lost from Advent Children fighting to protect their future. Sephiroth essentially has control. Enough control anyway, maybe through some Genova Cell nonsense and shenanigans,
Right.
that he can control these Arbiters, man. So that's what it is. It's not Tifa, Barrett, and Cloud like we thought.
Holy crap, man.
Uh-huh.
What the fuck?
It's wild. It's so wild, and I love it. I fucking love it. I am so excited for part 2 now. Like, not only do I want to see the, you know, what they did before and like
Right.
seeing them go to the Golden Saucer and Calm and all this, but now it's like, damn, now I get to see like where this crazy ass story goes. Like, are we building up to see like Zack somehow come through to this timeline to fight alongside Cloud and kill Sephiroth
Oof.
for good? And then no need for the timelines to exist, so he goes back to his own timeline? Like, what the fuck are we building up to? I don't know, but I can't fucking wait.
This
I'm
sounds
so
like
excited.
I mean, this sounds like good times, man. Like, I feel really, really fortunate and really lucky that I'm able to kind of like now really, really like go back and replay all these old games.
Yes.
Because now I can kind of like see all of like the hints and everything that played out in Final Fantasy VII Remake. I just,
oh yeah, man.
because, you know, is Aerith safe? You know, are we at like a pivot point where the timeline will just go into a completely different direction? I mean, I don't know.
It's got the possibility. I still think because of what I told you, right, about how Aerith saves the planet,
Right.
I still think she needs to die.
Right.
She is too crucial of a plot, like she's too crucial to the plot for her to just not die.
Right.
However, maybe she will die differently. In the original game, where you're getting to that point, Cloud is kind of losing his mind because of the black materia in that area that Sephiroth is trying to go after to get Meteor. And there's a part where Cloud almost kills Aerith. Like he's literally holding up his sword to kill her, but then he stops, and then that's when Sephiroth swoops in and then kills her himself. What if they change that to Sephiroth like, I'm not gonna be the one to kill her, you will.
Yeah.
And you end up killing Aerith. You know,
Oh
or
my
what if she
gosh.
doesn't die in that area at all, and you think, oh, sweet, she's not gonna die, and then she dies later because she still has to die.
Right.
So it hurts like a double whammy. Like it's a subversion to the subversion. You know, like this could really go anyway. But all I can say is, dude, it's a genius move by the writers and the creators, man.
Oh yeah. I mean, it just. It's exciting. I'm just gonna leave it at that. It's exciting because I mean, it got me to go back and play the original, and that nothing has, not even Sean has gotten me to go back and play the original. Like, this is exciting. It's exciting to be able to like experience it. I wonder how long it's going to take for the next one to come out.
I don't know. Nomura has said in interviews that he wants to release them, sooner than later, a lot faster. But that means that he might do smaller segments.
Yeah.
Like Midgar, So, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to have another 30-hour segment based on a 5-hour part of the game, because then we're talking about Kingdom Hearts levels of releases where we're going to have literally 10 games to cover this entire story. And that's kind of where you think about it. Kingdom Hearts has a bunch of games, and that was Nomura telling a story however he wanted to.
Right.
I don't want that to happen to this game.
You don't want Final Fantasy VII to be convoluted?
I mean, it already is. Let's be real here. It's fucking convoluted. The original was, though. The original was pretty convoluted, too.
Oh, yeah.
But now adding in timelines and time travel and all this shit, I mean, come on. This is Final Fantasy VII Back to the Future, right? It's getting wild. It's getting wild, man.
Oh, man.
So we'll see. The future does look very, very bright, and I'm very, very, very excited to see where the story goes. Truly.
Me too. I'm excited, man. I think a lot of, because of what I mentioned earlier, visually, the characters are made. They're already done. I'm hoping that some of the assets from Final Fantasy VII Remake are able to be used in Final Fantasy VII Remake 2.
Oh yeah.
Which would speed up development and kind of bring that next portion of the game out. If it's elongating a 4 to 8 hour period into a 30 to 40 hour experience, I don't know. Like,
yeah,
I hope that it's like I could take like a 3-part trilogy. That
I would love that. I would love a trilogy.
Yeah,
I think that'd be great.
I think that would be awesome. I think that would be really cool. But we'll see what happens, I guess would be the best way of saying.
We really have no other choice. I would definitely take a trilogy. 3 40-hour games. That's good. That's 120 hours out of a 40-hour game. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, I mean, maybe the next couple of releases are shorter.
Yeah.
Because this game did have, like we mentioned earlier, a lot of padding. If they cut down by like 10 hours, I still think it's a fantastic game.
Oh, me too.
Plenty of length, plenty of replay value, and it's more concise. It's more meaty. So if they do like 30-hour experiences, maybe you can see like a 4-part game, maybe 5 at most. But that's the most I would personally want. Like 5 games, that's a lot, man. That's a lot. We're talking about literally in 10 years, we'll see what happens, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, this is probably going to be a PS6 title if Nomura gets his way.
It goes at this rate, right?
Yeah, dude. Like, I mean, think about it. When did they announce Final Fantasy VII Remake?
7 Remake was announced in 2015.
2015.
But you got to remember, at the time, the teams were they were working on they were still working on
15
didn't come out till 2016. They were working on Kingdom Hearts 3, and of course the 7 Remake. I don't know if you remember, but for the first 2 years, the people that were actually developing the game was not Square Enix. It was CyberConnect 2.
Yep.
The guys that worked on like Naruto and stuff.
Yep.
And then they had to kind of scrap that because they just ran into a lot of nonsense. And then they shifted, after they finished 15 and Kingdom Hearts 3, they then shifted to Final Fantasy VII Remake full time. That's when Nomura got pulled.
Yeah, like the last year and a half or 2 years, Nomura was pulled from Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah, exactly. And when it was given to Tabata, and then like as soon as he finished Kingdom Hearts 3, it was like, all right, dude, go go work on 7 Remake. So like, yeah, this game really had like maybe a 2.5 year turnaround time, realistically, because the first 2 years were really almost worthless.
So do you think that in 2.5 years we'll be able to go ahead and get the next one?
Hopefully faster. I'm hoping 2021 would be nice.
Yeah.
Like late 2021, so like a year and a half of release.
Bro, that would be insane.
Yeah. It would be.
I would go nuts.
But probably realistically we'll probably get it like early 2022, 2 years after this.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
But I don't know. I honestly, one thing that I learned, and we'll start wrapping it up with this final thought. With the original game, near the end, Aerith is the only character that actually dies, right? But when they were writing the original Final Fantasy VII, sorry for my headphone users, when they were writing it originally, the creator, I believe it was Kitase, Yoshinori Kitase, and I forget his name, but his last name is Nojima, I believe.
Yeah.
They were like the main scenario writers of the original game.
Right.
And they were thinking of killing off pretty much every single other character except Cloud and 2 other members that you chose to bring into the final battle against Sephiroth. So Sephiroth was going to kill pretty much everybody except 3 people. Right?
Holy crap.
2 others besides Cloud. Nomura, who had the original idea of killing Ares, where he talked to like Hironobu Sakaguchi, which was the creator of Final Fantasy, and he was still at Square Enix at the time.
Right.
He talked to him and gave him the idea of killing Aerith during, when it happened. And he then tells Kitase and Nojima, yo, guys, maybe we shouldn't kill all those people. We already killed somebody else. And they were like, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. Nomura actually has a good head on his shoulders. From things that I've heard from when he was still doing Versus 13, yes, he was, he had a big vision, right, for the game. But from what I heard was that when he was the leader, people were actually doing what they needed to do. It took a long time because of how the scope of the game grew.
Right.
But it was still, according to people that were in his team, they were still pretty well ran. So I actually have a lot of faith in Nomura. I think Kingdom Hearts is its own thing. Kingdom Hearts is blah, right? Kingdom Hearts ended up being what it was because of 20 years of running that shit. Well, not 20 years, almost 20 years. With this game, though, I don't know. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt right now. It feels like with the timeline shenanigans, it's still very Kingdom Hearts-y. I mean, Xehanort did the same shit, right? He ran around through timelines too. But I don't know. I feel like he knows what he's doing, and because the original team is also here helping with the scenarios, that, I don't know. I think it's going to be okay. I
think just timelines are his thing, man.
Like, absolutely. Clearly, he loves villains going through timelines.
Look at Kingdom Hearts. Look at Final Fantasy 15. Look at, everything. Like, that's just he likes it, and I'm okay with it because it seems like it's like you said, when we were talking off, the YouTube channel and whatnot, like Final Fantasy VII Remake, the ending was 100% for the fans. 100% fans of the what was it, the compilation?
The compilation of
Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
Like, it just, I don't know. Like, I'm excited. I want to kind of like dive in headfirst into anything and everything that's Final Fantasy VII right now.
Dude, I'm so happy because this is what it's supposed to do. Like, 7 had a really good story, and you're gonna get to experience that now. Like, now knowing what's coming in the future, like, it'll change your perspective. All I keep hearing is like, dude, just replay the game, because knowing what we know now changes so much of the game. Yeah. So, yeah.
It's going to be good times.
I don't know. Certainly, man. So, I personally, if I'm going to be critical about the game, if I'm going to be, a typical reviewer and be critical, I personally would give it the gold stamp. This is top of the line. It's great value, but it is a flawed product, right? However, personally, I fucking loved my time with this game. It's been so long that I have felt so passionate over a game. I think literally, I might not be exaggerating, either The Last Guardian or Undertale. Those were probably the last 2 games that I played that I was like, shit, I'm listening to the soundtrack. I keep thinking about it day in, day out. It comes into my mind at least once or twice or 3 times a day. Like, I fucking love this game, man. So personal, I'd give this a platinum. But critically, I would have to give it a gold, because there is a lot of flaws that hold it back.
So, in my neck of the woods, I can't even recall the last game that I was like, I need to finish this game. I need to beat it 100%. It, like, go through it and just, I want to see what happens with these characters. The gameplay, I think the last game that I actually played that was this fun to play in regards to combat was probably Astral Chain, if I can recall, like recently.
Right.
Everything else has been kind of like, you know, whatever. In regards to character development, story, and just everything that's happened, I care so deeply for these characters. Barrett,
so well,
dude. Barrett hits me home when he leaves Marlene, and he goes ahead and is like, "Don't worry, baby, I'll be right back." And he walks out, and he's, you know, he puts on his glasses, talking to the other guys, and he's like, "She's tougher than me." It's just, I love that, and like, as a parent,
this is not the first time I've heard you telling me this,
dude.
So that's how I know. Like, yeah, that scene is really powerful for you.
As a parent, I feel that, and out of all the characters that are there, I relate to him more than any one of them, and I never thought that would be the case.
No, it's crazy. Like, and you know, I kind of now that we're almost at the end of this review, now I kind of wish we would have talked about the characters a little more.
Yeah.
During the story, but that is one of the best parts of this game. The story in Midgar isn't the best, and the way that it's told kind of sucks, especially for newcomers.
Right.
It's a lot of cryptic stuff that you wouldn't know without either playing the game or digging deep into it. But damn, these characters are so friggin' lovable, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. It's kudos to the writers. They knew exactly how to write these guys.
Oh yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
It's a labor of love, man. I'm 100% there with you, man. Barrett is such a damn good character.
He is.
Damn good character.
I love all the love that was put into the story. I love all of the additions to the story. Visually, we've already stated our piece in regards to that. The music was amazing. Audio was amazing. The audio design was amazing. But I do agree with you on a lot of these flaws. I would give it a gold, both personally and critically. Okay. And I look forward to the next part of this remake. Like, I am intrigued. I am extremely intrigued and extremely excited to see what happens. And I can't wait to finish playing the original. Like, that's
likewise, man.
It's like, I can't wait to dive into this and dive into what's there. I don't know. I'm stoked.
No, dude, I'm with you, man. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for sticking around. This is probably one of, if not the longest review we've done. If it isn't, it's definitely the second longest. I think our Nier Automata review was pretty long too. I don't know if it's an hour and a half, but I hope you guys enjoyed our discussion and our review. This is going forward, this is how it's going to be. We're going to review things with this scale. But let us know if you've played the game. Mm-hmm. Please let us know about this big brain theory. If you want to spoiler tag it, go for it. If you want to talk to us on Discord, you have more options to spoiler tag things. Yep. So come on over, talk to us, and let us know what you thought about Final Fantasy VII. Mm-hmm. I love it, man. The future looks bright for the series.
It does indeed. It looks very bright. I am very excited. It's fucking Nomura.
I know. All right, man. Well, thank you, Rudy, for this hour and a half. This has been super fun. And again, Final Fantasy VII Remake, guys. Get it, play it, love it. Mm-hmm. All right, well, thanks for tuning in. Yeah. I don't even know. It's been an hour and a half. Like, how do I end this?
How do we end this? I guess like, comment, subscribe. Join us on Discord. If you want to support us directly, join our Patreon or YouTube membership.
There you go, baby. Except for else, please don't end my life because I'm spoiling what you're gonna do. Sorry. Oh man, but no, seriously, guys. We will see you on the next one, and we look forward to talking more about this with you guys. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Later, guys. Ciao. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more and stay up to date, subscribe, hit the little bell, and join our Discord. If you want to support the channel, please check out our Patreon or hit the join button below. As always, thanks for your support and thanks for watching.